Welcome to the Yibnei Beis Midrash and Kalim, Kavanah Mitzvahs Foundation. Tonight what we're going to do is two mitzvahs that if you do them, just listen for a few seconds. There are fruits, incredible fruits from these mitzvahs, fruitful mitzvahs. What are these mitzvahs? Learning Torah and what we call Ion Tophila, studying the prayer. Okay, now those mitzvahs, so first of all, since our whole objective is that you get maximum connection to Hashem with the mitzvahs and also just period, reward everything, so have in mind right now the mitzvah of learning Torah and the mitzvah of Ion Tophila, okay, studying it. Now I called them fruitful mitzvahs. Why? Because it's really amazing. What happens is there could be, things everyone wishes for, right? Getting married, having children, getting wealthy. All those things are usually they're not rewards for mitzvahs. When does the reward come for a mitzvah? Later on in the world to come. However, there are certain mitzvahs that you're going to see amazing, beautiful fruits right now. It's we read it in the morning. The following, Kibbud Av V'Aim, etc. So on the list is, of course, learning Torah. So that's number one. But also studying the Tefillah, like Ashrei. If you study the Tefillah, if you reflect a little bit on the Tefillah, what happens is you have fruits coming, even in this world. You don't have to wait till much later on. Okay? So, as I said, let's have that in mind. The mitzvah of learning Torah and Ion Tophila. It's really two in one. So what are we going to study tonight? Mizmor L'Soida. We're going to bring another revelation about this Tehillim that you say every day in Psukei D'Zimra. Okay? 3 words. We're just going to study 3 words, but wait till you hear what's going on with these words. What are the words? So first of all, the verse, it's the Tehillim or Psalm 100, and it's the second verse, right? The second verse says, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, ba'u lefanav b'ernana. So let's translate. Serve Hashem with joy, and come before Him with joyous song. Okay? That's the pasuk. That's the 3 words. So now, get ready. Let's look into it. Let's take a study of it, okay? So, it says, when it says this, first of all, when we recite Psukei D'Zimra, that's a mitzvah in itself. And when you say Mizmor L'Soida, and if you're just focused while you say and you appreciate the words and the meaning, that's wonderful. You did a great recital, okay? Halavai, that would be wonderful if when you recite these words you say Hashem, serve Hashem with simcha, come before Him with joyous song. Just knowing the meaning and being connected in the moment. That's called Kavanahs alev. See, we're focused on Kavanah for mitzvahs, which means the intention you have. But Kavanahs alev is what everyone thinks of when they think of Kavanah, is being focused in prayer, knowing what you're saying, appreciating its meaning. Great, but guess what? There's a surprise in this pasuk. There are actually hidden mitzvahs. See, this is something, when you recite it in the davening, you may not realize that there are mitzvahs embedded in the Tehillim. Okay? Rav Sajid Goen says that whenever there's a language in the prayer that sounds like a commandment, like this one, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, serve Hashem with joy. That's a mitzvah, right? So, and what's the mitzvah there? That applies to all the mitzvahs you do. And we discussed it here. It means that, for example, serving Hashem with joy. Why? Because Hashem's showering us with so much blessing and good things, and we have a chance to thank Him, right? So, wow, I am thrilled. I feel joy in my heart that I get to serve You. That's the first mitzvah, and that applies to every mitzvah you do. Let's have that in mind right now, okay? We're serving Hashem right now by learning Torah, by doing Ion Tophila, so do it with joy. So we see there that there's a mitzvah in the words. So recite the words, they're profound, they're divine. But take note, that's a mitzvah. So you get a mitzvah. Now, I call the second half of this the unsung mitzvah. Because I think most people understand there's this idea of Idu es Hashem b'simcha. But what does it mean, Bo'u l'fan of Bernana? Come before Hashem with joyous song. That too is a language of a commandment. And by the way, we must explain also that the commandments come from the Torah, from the 5 books of Moshe, the Chumash. However, in the other parts of the Torah, what we call the Tanakh, the Navi and the Kesuvim, so there are commandments there, they're mitzvahs that are usually expanding on some Torah mitzvah. Okay? So now, Ba'u l'fan of Bernana, let's understand the mitzvah. Okay? So, what does the word say? Come before Him. Come before Hashem. So the question we have to ask is, that sounds like we're supposed to go somewhere. Where? Right? Like, I'll give you an example. It says in Parshas Bo, it says, Bo lifnei paro. Hashem tells Moshe, go before Paro. That means Moshe was not before Paro, and he's supposed to come before him. Okay? But we have to understand, what does it mean? We're not before Hashem right now? You know, what does it mean to come before Him, implying you're going someplace else? Right? So we see here there's something very deep going on here. It's saying come before Him. So let's understand what that means. What does it mean? We are in the presence of Hashem everywhere, right? He is there, He's there everywhere, right? But there's some places and some times where you can access greater awareness of Hashem. So you go to certain locations, and when you come there, you're more able to realize you're before Him. Now the classic place, and that's what this Tehillim's in Iker talking about, the classic place is the Beis HaMikdash. When we went to the Beis HaMikdash, it was clear as day. I mean, when you see open miracles, and here's something to understand, you know, what's the difference between a miracle and a magic trick or sorcery and things like this? A miracle that, especially like in the Beis HaMikdash in Mitzrayim, you knew that this was Hashem, this was the Creator doing this. And it was obvious, wow, there's a God, He's running the world. He can undo anything that's taking place. You know, the laws of nature are His, right? I like saying that you've heard of Mother Nature? Mother Nature has a father. It's Hashem. Okay? So when you came before Hashem in the Beis HaMikdash and you made a sacrifice of your belongings and brought a korban, so you were in for an incredible awareness that Hashem's there. Okay? So that's the classic location. But I have really good news. There are places we can come before Him now, even though we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. You know, anything that's written in the Torah has to apply for all time. These messages are for all time. So I want to share with you from Rabbi Victor Miller, in his book, Praise My Soul. He points out where else you are coming before Hashem. And I added a couple as well, and I checked with Rabbi Breitowitz. Okay, so let's take a look. Other places we can come before Hashem now. Obviously, we come before Hashem in the Beis HaMikdash, in the temple, but the good news is you're coming before Hashem, meaning you're transitioning into places and times where you become more aware of Hashem. The first place is, where we are right now, in a Beis Midrash and a Beis Knesset. Why? Guess what it's called? The Beit Knesset is called a miniature Beis HaMikdash. In fact, we have a mitzvah to have reverence. The reason you act very respectfully in a Beis Knesset or a Beis Midrash is because it's considered a little miniature Beis HaMikdash. So that means you can access greater awareness of Hashem. You can come before Him in a Beit Knesset and a Beis Midrash. Okay? That's place number one. Place number 2 is during the Shemona Esrei. We say, for example, there's different laws. There are tremendous laws of a kind of respect and reverence and intense awareness when you step into Shemona Esrei. On Purim, for example, on Purim, and I'm not getting into the halachic details, but if a person was drunk and it was a hard time reciting, let's say, Birkas Hamazon or even Kriya Shema, they could do that. But if they can't speak properly when they step into Shemona Esrei, it doesn't work because they're lifnei hamelech, they're before the king. So every time you daven, you are coming before him. Ba'u lefanav, you're coming before Hashem. So that means you have the potential to access greater awareness and connection. And by the way, we haven't even discussed what do you do when you're coming before Hashem. This is just the first 2 words, Ba'u lefanav. But let's see where else you come before Hashem. Again, we're getting a lot here. In a Torah lecture, when you hear a Torah class, you are coming before Hashem. I always love this experience that it happens all the time. Someone will come up to me and say, did you hear Rabbi, let's say Rabbi Tatz, did you hear Rabbi Tatz? He's amazing. And they'll say, did you hear Rabbi Breitowitz? He's amazing. He's amazing. What's happening? These rabbis are enabling you to connect to Hashem and His Torah. You're coming before Him. They are amazing vehicles. But when you are hearing Torah, you are actually, and that's why we say one of the ways to cleave to Hashem, to cling to Hashem, is through the teachers of Torah. So they're vehicles to a closeness. So you're coming before when you're hearing a Torah lecture too. So this means that there's consciousness development and change that's available. Okay. Finally is during the entry of Shabbos. Okay, this picture is of Kabbalat Shabbat, and but it happens when you're lighting the candles, etc. The entry of Shabbos, you're coming before Him. Let me kind of elaborate on that. You know, Rabbi Shimshon Pinkus in Shabbos Malkusai, he says it's very kind of strange. We speak about Shabbos as if it's a person. Shabbos is coming. Hurry up! Shabbos is coming. You know, Malava Malka. You know, Shabbos is almost out. You know, where is it going? This Shabbos, right? So Shabbos, that Rabbi Pinkus explains. What does that mean? Shabbos. What does it mean to receive the Shabbos? Greetings, time period. No. Greetings, divine presence. In other words, Hashem makes it easier to access awareness on Shabbos. So when the Shabbos enters, that's significant because you're ba'ula fanav in these locations. So again, every time you step into a Beis Midrash or a Beit Knesset, you're coming before him, ba'ula fanav. When you step into Shemona Esrei, when you listen to a Torah class, and when Shabbos enters. So now we've discussed where you're going, okay? What happens is you're transitioning into a state that there's greater awareness. That's number 1. But now, what do you do when you get there? Or what do you do on the way? Bir Nana. Reena is a beautiful word. Such a beautiful word. Reena means joyous song, okay? Bir Nana. So when you come before Him, Bir Nana, with joyous song. So let's appreciate this. See, what's happening in Mizmor Soida is there's like levels of development. You're growing. If you follow the instructions and do this mitzvah, you're evolving. First, Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. When you do the mitzvahs, you feel a nice joy in your heart. You're happy, you feel lucky, you feel privileged, right? You feel joy in your heart. But there's a step beyond that. Especially when you're entering a zone where you can access awareness of Hashem more greatly, when you're coming before Him, it is not enough to just feel a warm, beautiful feeling in your heart. And let me explain this. One of the members of KLM, was a professional actor. He was an actor for soap operas. He was an actor in England with Shakespeare, did Shakespeare, etc. And he's explained the idea of a musical, right? There's musical theater. And what goes on there? You know, it's kind of funny. You know, they're talking and then boom, a song, right? So he said beautifully. And you know, I'm not, you know, anyhow, you know the movie Singing in the Rain? It's a good example, okay? What happens is sometimes in a certain drama and experience, you are so overwhelmed with emotions that words just don't cut it. And the only way to express your love and your joy and your passion is with Reena, with song. Okay? So that's what that idea, by the way before David and Melech saying that. You know, look at the Tehillim. Look at the Tehillim you say in Pesukei Zimra. Shir Hadash, Zimra, Kinor, Neville, you know, music. Why? Because those things are just a model for the real joy that can't be expressed in words, has to be done in song. Okay? So it's really a beautiful instruction and a mitzvah we fulfill when we're in these environments, we come with song. First of all, Yibane, it always starts out with Yibba, Yibane, right? You're about to have a Torah song, right? And I'm going to mention that, guess what? You can do this, or you're basically doing this in certain places, okay? For example, by the way, when I head to shul, I like say, I have a little niggin, and I get excited when I go right in here, right? But now, Pesukei Zimra, now, where do you sing? I'm sorry, Shemona Esrei. So you come before him, right? What is it, how do you translate Pesukei de Zimra? Pesukei de Zimra is verses of song. You're singing. It's meant to be sung. Many parts of it, ideally, are meant to be sung. Now, you have to realize what a match this is. When they were coming to the Beis HaMikdash with a korban, they would enter with Reena, and the Levine would sing with Reena with great joy. Now, think about this. This is also from Reb Pinkus. It's in the Arizal says this. You have to realize that in the Pesukei de Zimra, spiritually speaking, you are entering the Azara of the Beis HaMikdash, the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash. That's what they say, the Pesukei de Zimra. See, then when after Baruch, when you enter Kriya Shema and those brachas, so the Arizal says you've entered the Ulam. You've gone further into the Beis HaMikdash. But where do you end up in the Shemona Esrei? You're literally, if you will, you're spiritually before him in the Kodesh Kadoshim, in the holiest place. So this is really the model. You hear? Pesukei de Zimra, if you sing it. And as we say, don't just do this, have in mind you're fulfilling a commandment that here, Ba'ulafan Hashem, wherever I can, and if I have time in Pesukei de Zimra, I'm going to sing Mizmor L'Soida. I'm going to sing this with a beautiful melody to express my feelings of anticipation and excitement that I'm coming before you. You hear that? So we're really, really set up. That's what Pesukei de Zimra. In my humble opinion, it's Ba'u L'Fanav B'Ernana. Okay? So you can come before him with joy there. And now, normally the Torah classes, you'd have to do it before, but this is what what is Kabbalat Shabbat, the service about? You recite these beautiful Tehillim, and then you have Lacha Dodi. And the Gemara says, they went out into the fields as Shabbos was coming in at sunset to greet him, to greet the divine presence. Kabbalat Shabbat, as we said, is greeting. The Arizal says this too. You're receiving the divine presence. You're coming before him. So isn't it beautiful, our minhag, to sing Lacha Dodi? Now, when you sing it, and normally when Shabbos enters, what do you think? What do we normally think? We think, okay, no turning on lights, right? No, be very careful. Don't touch muksa. we know that when Shabbos comes in, there's a halakhic change. The laws change. You're in a different zone in that. But you also have come before him. It's a very beautiful spiritual moment, and that's why we sing. So if you realize if you feel some anticipation, and you're doing it anyhow, you're reciting La Chadodi, you're singing, right? See, I'm doing this because I want to come before you with Reena, with beautiful song. All right, now we're just going to discuss why working on this can just really develop us in several areas.
Go ahead.
I'd like to add a beautiful point that Rabbi Poston just made, which is, in truth, you can look at the entire experience of Judaism as one big musical. You go to a bris, you go to a wedding, everyone's breaking out in song, everybody's connecting in joy. Just Judaism, period, is like a musical. Now, I just want to conclude by explaining that if you work on realizing I'm now coming before him when I enter a Beit Knesset, when I step into Shmona Esrei, when I hear a Torah class, when Shabbos enters. If you work on this, what happens is that you'll realize you're in a relationship because you're coming before him. See, you can recite Pesukei de Zimra and not realize you're reciting it to someone. You read those words and it's okay, I read the words, I thought about them, I had a nice, interesting experience. But these are, Tehillim, as we've said before, is a love letter written mostly by David HaMelech to Hashem. And you're reciting it to Hashem. So by realizing I'm coming before him and recognizing this is relational. So that's number one. Ba'ula Fanav is a great way to make it less of a ritual and more of a relationship. Secondly, Ba'ula Fanav is a mitzvah that we weren't aware of, right? You're fulfilling a mitzvah when you come before Hashem with joyous song. So have in mind that you're fulfilling a mitzvah and appreciate that you're attaining sanctity that you wouldn't have had before. Even if you just recited this Tehillim, even with Kavanahs Alev in focus, but you didn't realize Hashem's commanding me to do this mitzvah of coming before him with joyous song. Less Kedusha, but now we have more Kedusha. And then finally, this is the most amazing of all, is Rabbi Miller says it constantly. We're here on earth to attain as much awareness of Hashem's presence as possible, to make it as real as possible. And when you achieve that, when you say, wow, I'm going into a shul, the Hashem's more here, etc., or Shabbos, when you achieve that, it says in the Gemara Brachos, it's as if the Beis HaMikdash was built in your days. Anyone who acquires Deah, which is a deep awareness of Hashem's presence, it's like he achieved the greatest thing of all, the Beis HaMikdash. We're there, it was very obvious we're in the presence of Hashem.
Shir shir chadai